So the beautiful thing about human beings, we are so unique that all of us can actually find something that's interesting and exciting and also able to actually peak that performance that you have based on the passion. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. So my name is Coach Jason Ho, and I have always been obsessed with this thing called passion and this thing called performance. And some of us, when we think about passion and performance, they don't really mix. For me, today I'm trying to tell you that there is actually subsection in between that will actually bring out the best in you more effortlessly than you thought. I've gone through 32 different jobs and businesses in my life. 32. Right? I've been a professional will writer, I was a financial advisor, I won MDRT, I was a logo designer, I won awards. And throughout all these things, I realized that there were some things when I did with so much ease. It was challenging, interesting, but I did with ease that how come I was able to succeed accidentally and some other parts or other jobs and businesses, I was such a struggle. It's so difficult for me. So today I'm going to share with you a framework that I hope that you can use as a very simple framework to help you understand that, hey, there's something about passion that you might not be tapping into, and that can really help you to level up in terms of your performance. For those who have siblings, I almost guarantee that your sibling finds you a bit strange while growing up. And you find your sibling strange as well. So the funny thing about this strangeness, it is the uniqueness that we want to lean into today. Your sibling is going to be good at things that you're never going to be good at. Right? They can do some things with ease that you probably take a lot of effort. That differences that you see while growing up is the same differences you see in teens today. And they're all different. So the beautiful thing about human beings, we are so unique that all of us can actually find something that's interesting and exciting and also able to actually peak that performance that you have based on the passion. So first and foremost, I want to ask you this question. Think about your best day. That means when you went home, you'd be like, wow, today was a great day. And I assure you that this has almost everything to do with what the entire framework is about. So I want you to think about one best day that you had. Not a fictitious day, but an actual day. What of all the things you do, let's simplify it. What is one activity that you did that I look forward to that one. I really look forward to that task. That meeting is like, I kind of feel excited doing that. So what you have experienced when you're doing this, you have audited something in your life. And what have you audited? You have audited this thing called your energy level. Most of the time when we think about work, we never ever think about energy level. What you've just described to your partner is actually the things that you feel most energized doing. That means that's the meeting that you look forward to, compared to the meetings or the emails that you look at it like, I'll just unread it and tomorrow then I'll do. Right? All of us have those things. So today, when we were talking about that just now, it is a glimpse of where you can find your peak performance. How do you get the most of what you do? And one thing that we think about this is actually these things called strengths. So whatever you have described just now, you are utilizing this thing called your strength. And what is the strength? Strength is basically things that you feel alive doing, you feel energized doing. There's an emotional aspect of it that most of the time as adults, nobody talks about, even your bosses. And when you use your strengths, some statistics, if you use your strengths, the things that energize you, you're 3 times more likely to say you have an excellent quality of life. That best day at work, when you went home, your shoulders were lighter. You had more patience with your kids. When it comes to this, it overflows to every part of your life. Next thing is that you're 6 times more engaged in your job. And lastly, for profit centers, it's 12.5% increase in team profitability. These are stats by Gallup when he talks about this whole idea of strengths. So why is it important? Most managers, when they come to me and when I consult, a lot of times they ask, so how do I increase engagement? One of the best ways to change or to actually move that dial when it comes to engagement is utilizing the best things about us. And I'm going to share with you how we look at it. When we look at any job, I want to share with you a very binary way of looking at it. Every job scope has job tasks inside. There's some bigger job tasks, some smaller job tasks. And I'm going to share with you a lens that you now look at your job tasks in a very different way. And the colors basically means things that energize you and things that drain you. So everything is quite binary. And when we look at this, we want to understand, how does this help us when we think about our career, when we think about of all the things we do, Where do I get my peak performance? The best things about you. So we look at it this way. It's a very simple framework, but yet very powerful when it comes to understanding where do you want to start to brand yourself. On the y-axis, it's actually high competency and low competency. The y-axis is usually how bosses look at us. Are you good or are you not good? That's it. But they don't know that John took 5 hours to do that thing, while Sally took 30 minutes to do the exact same thing. They don't see that. And something about energy level helps us understand where should we lean when it comes to our career. So on the x-axis is energize and drain. And I'm going to share you these 4 quadrants, and all of us here have things in our job that fit into these 4 quadrants. I've never seen a person that I've coached that on the left-hand side drain, there's nothing at all. Never. So all of us do have that. So let's be very balanced about this. It's not about, oh, let's find everything that's energizing and don't do anything that's draining. There's no such job out there. It is about being self-aware and auditing yourself today to understand, hey, what task is where? So the bottom left-hand corner, we call it tragic grind. These are the things that you are not good in, you're below average, and it drains the life out of you. It is like almost like Superman touching kryptonite. It's like, I need to do this, I can do this, but it drains me. Right? That's tragic grind. The feeling that you have sometimes is also the idea of swimming in mud. Right? You keep trying to improve, but hey, I am improving, but in a very, very minuscule kind of way. The top left-hand corner is hollow endeavor. That means you're happy that you are done that job, you're not happy with that task. It's a very different thing. It's almost like, wow, heng, I finished that. But it's not that I look forward to it. And when I coach different leaders, this is the interesting part. This is where your boss thinks it's your strength. And some of us here, we have branded ourselves in our own career in the last 5, 10, 15 years. We've branded ourselves that our hollow endeavor is our personal brand, which is dangerous. Because as we go more and more, what we just saw just now is most people think that you're good at it, you like it, I'll give you more. But the funny thing about it is that we don't have the language to talk to our bosses and our managers that, hey, it is something I'm good at, but it actually drains me. We never dare say that. Why? Because it sounds childish, it sounds incompetent, and it just sounds not adultish, right? So when we are able to understand this framework today, we will understand there's a very big difference. There are 2 buckets in terms of your best competency. 2 very distinct buckets, things that energize you and things that drain you. We go on to the right-hand side. The bottom right, where it's energizing, but you are not competent, is your misguided output. So these are the parts where you feel that, actually I look forward to that meeting, but when I first did that, it's like, I'm not very good at it yet. So these are the things that you tried out, maybe once or twice or 3 times in your career, and you'd be like, I think I look forward to it, but I don't have the competency yet. This is something that we can pay attention to, because this can one day become the top quadrant. And that's where I want you to pay all the attention today, and this is your primal greatness. Your most natural way of thinking, without much assistance and training, you can do a damn good job. And these are the things that you might call it innate talent, you might call it, this is how you're wired. And for us, we call it strengths, your innate strengths that you have, your innate talents. And these are the things, if you think about it, these are the things that energize you, and you're actually quite good at that. And that is where, when we think about this whole idea of your own career, my question to you, and it's a pointed question, do people know you more for your hollow endeavor, or people know you for your primal greatness? And a lot of us here, some of us here would say that actually people know me more for my hollow endeavor, Jason, and actually throughout the years, somehow or rather, I had a bigger and bigger role when it comes to my hollow endeavor. And that's a common thing I hear a lot. Why? Because we never had a distinction between competency and energy, which is actually a big deal. So when we look at this, so how do we understand this? We understand this also in a way of emotions. We now know that it is not only the task that we do that is important, it is how we feel here. It's how we feel energized here. So these are the emotions that you might feel in each quadrant. For tragic grind, you feel helpless. Hollow endeavor, you feel burnout. That means you can do it, but it takes a toll out of you. Misguided output, you feel inadequate. And then for primal greatness, this is where you feel alive. So when we think about this, how does this help you in terms of your own life? When I coach people at their peak performance, for example, either directors in different companies or even in insurance agents, I always see that the best people out there, that means people who are really at their peak performance, are able to lean into the strengths that they have. And how do they know that? They know it because they feel that it is energizing for them. We don't think about this whole idea of growth. Growth is actually a factor of how you feel. The more energized you feel about a certain task, the more you will learn faster. When we think back at it, we think back at things that for some reason in school, we were able to score well for the things that energize us, subjects that energize us compared to subjects that drain us. This framework helps you to understand of all the things you do at work right now, the question you should ask yourself is, what is my primal greatness? And I want you to actually think about this. Do people actually know you for your primal greatness, or do people know you for your hollow endeavor? And most of the time when I talk to people I coach, they actually know them a lot of times for the hollow endeavor, not so much for primal greatness. And the funny thing about it is that when your boss, who might not know this, they talk about the y-axis, it doesn't talk about the main thing about it, which is the energy level. If I want to summarize today, the thing that helps you understand where is your best would be here, your emotions. Something here is the compass to help you understand that, hey, I'm energized doing that, and that's why I find it a little bit more interesting. And even though it's challenging, I do feel that that's something that I can actually do and improve even more. So when we think about primal greatness, it is things that energize you and you're competent in. The very first thing that people should do is to understand that the two groups of people who need to be aware that, hey, this is something that really energizes me, this is something that really makes me feel alive, is your boss and your peers. What you want to do and what you want to achieve over time is that when you look at this quadrant, you don't want to say that, okay, so on the left-hand side, boss, I don't want to do those. It's not about that. It is about on the left-hand side, those are the things that are good. That's my good. But wait till you see my great. So what you want to do is to ask for more opportunities in the areas where you feel most energized doing. What I see in corporate life is a lot of times bosses will give you opportunities in areas that they feel is your strength, which could very well be things in your hollow endeavor. Or bosses will give you opportunities sometimes in areas where they feel that, hey, actually, this might be important in this company to be able to do the next step and all that. What I see the gap is that managers don't even know what is your primal greatness at all. They will assume that, like what I said just now, the things that you're competent in is your strengths, but actually that's not true. The things on the left-hand side is things that you can do. It's your good. But on the right-hand side is things that you feel it's your great. So number one is seek opportunities. Number two is let your team members understand and your boss understand that this is your greatness. And they need to know that because the first part they don't even know. So the energy level, for whatever reason, is kind of like it's there and you don't know why. The only way you can think about it is that when you have tasted it, you know whether that is something energizing or draining. The best way when I look at this is almost the idea of food. If you have never tasted durian in your entire life and somebody tries to almost describe it, oh, it tastes a little bit like this and this, and you've never tasted it, you will never know whether you like it or you dislike it. Same thing for a task. No matter what I describe that, if you have never tasted it, you will never know which side you stand. You're energized or drained. So that being said, the task that we have, for whatever reason for human beings, is very much fixed. Are there areas where we can grow to learn into it? Personally, for me, when I think about this, there is no way. You can grow in competency, but then my question back to you is that why grow in your valleys, which you have so many of, when you can build on the mountains, which you have a few only? It is not so much about can we change it? It's very much those values are there. And every improvement that you have, which you can improve, I'm not saying that we don't grow. We can improve, but those improvements look like a teaspoon of salt down a valley. In terms of a performance coach, it is a waste of resource. What I'd rather you do is that you carry on doing the things that's your hollow endeavor, but your boss needs to know more and more that, hey, that is what I am good at, but you haven't seen great. If you draw your own peak performance or your own performance in your entire career. When you look at this and you try to audit yourself based on the peaks, why am I so good at these areas? There is a pattern. And for whatever reason, those patterns, those are the things when you are at your peak, that means you are the proudest of yourself. That means you feel that, yeah, I think I did really well and I feel energized doing these things. There's a pattern. And these things are basically the strengths that you have. So when you look at this, the question back to you is you have two options. The first option is that do you want to grow all the weaknesses that you have and help and just carry on that? Which is possible. That means the first development plan that we have, and this is the most common development plan, is that somebody identifies the gaps that you have and try to fill those gaps. I identify all the valleys you have and I try to fill those valleys. The other development plan is that I identify the mountains you have and I want you to use that mountain for our business. That means because you're so good at that, you will bring in more. Or you're so good at that, you will bring us higher as a team. So there are two kinds of development plans. And most of us actually fall into the gaps kind of development. I want to fix all my weaknesses. I want to fix all the things that people say that I am not good in. The other way is that I want to maximize the strengths that I have. I've done this for teachers, and teachers, some of them say that I hate marking. But bo pian, you are a teacher, what do you want to do? Another way of looking at this is that when we look at a job, the left-hand side, the things that drain you, you still must do. It's not that you don't do, you still must do. You want to frame it as that is your duty. It's just a duty. I've been given this role and responsibility for my team. This is my duty to complete a good job. That's on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, that's where you shine the brightest. On the right-hand side, that is your dominance. That means that is where you want to start branding yourself in the next 5-10 years that, hey, this is something I can do with a lot more ease and high performance compared to everybody else, right? So it's not that you don't do that anymore. It's that you change the spotlight to, hey, check out this side. Can I have some opportunities on the right-hand side? And let me just try it out. And same thing as Duran and all that, if you never tried it, you will never know. So if you are focusing on fixing your weaknesses, it brings you to a level where you are average. But if you focus on maximizing your strengths in the mountains you have, it brings you closer to this thing called world class. So let me show you who owns which axis. Competency, you don't own it. The market owns it. The market tells you whether you're competent or not, and the market is your team and your boss. You may think I'm damn good at doing financial modeling, but when your boss sees it, this is shit. What's wrong with this? Like, my goodness. So you never own the y-axis. So we might be delusional in the y-axis. And we've seen people, I'm very good at it. It's like, oh, that's not good. That's not. So the market owns it, and the market will reward the people who are good at that. The market is your boss, the market is your team members, and the market is the industry. So that you don't own the y-axis, you don't own competency, you can prove yourself and let the market judge. Now, coming to the x-axis, who owns it? That is where you own 100%. That is where even your boss feels that you're good at doing something and it's like, boss, I'm drained at it. And your boss will be like, cannot be, you're so good at it, you're almost the best in the entire company. How can that be? I'm good competently, but it drains me. The funny thing when I've seen is that these energy levels don't really change over time. It's almost like you think about it like there are two groups of people in this world, right? Numbers people and non-numbers people. Our hope is numbers people are here, right? That's the greatest hope. But if you actually think about it, like there are people who are non-numbers people. And they're going to be really happy and energized and fulfilled in life when they're doing something that's not related to numbers. And if they come here, I can be a boss and says that you're so good in numbers, I want to train you and all that. I hope that you have a love for numbers. That might never ever happen. And through my experience, that really doesn't happen. So the energy level, you own it 100%, your boss doesn't own it. So it can't be like I affirm you to a point where, hey, actually, you are so good in this, Let me pat you on the back. Let me tell you how good you are, give you recognition, even give you awards. It doesn't mean that that's going to change because you own the energy level. Your primal greatness doesn't become your hollow endeavor. It doesn't change. It never really changes. So give you an example. Who loves to run marathons here? So after you've run the marathon, how do you feel? Right after you run the marathon, physically, drained, right? Emotionally, high. So if I ask you to run a marathon back to back, how do you feel? It starts to get more and more draining, but he loves marathon. It's the same thing. If you put too much in terms of quantity into anything, it starts to stress you out. It doesn't mean your primary greatness becomes hollow endeavor. It just means that you start to, it's almost like you feel energized, but physically you cannot manage it. Same thing as a marathon runner. He feels energized after the race. Spiritually, emotionally, he feels energized. Physically, he's drained. You ask him to start another race now, he's like, I can, but it's tough. So there is a balance. Sometimes that balance comes from the idea that different teams run in different speeds. So sometimes that speed, I'm not saying that, okay, it's wrong or right. I'm saying that some of us, we grow more when we are pushed 1.5 times. Some of us, we grow more in a different scenario.